Last time on Anime in the Real World. For 30 years, anime was riding high on its golden age. But all good things must come to an end. My name is Mark Eric Seabon. Come with me as I travel across Japan to better understand the culture that created this unique art form and to understand how anime changed Japan and the world. Here on Anime in the Real World. As we've seen, the history of anime coincides with the course of human events. Not since World War II have we seen this to be more evident. In the beginning of the 1990s, Japan and anime's future was on the edge. Economists call it the lost decade, like America's Black Monday on the 19th of October 1987. This nation's economy crashed in 1991. This caused 10 plus years of stagnation in industry and commerce, and it also caused the slowdown in production and shutdown of anime studios. The popularity of anime took a hard hit in the 90s. Not as many people were watching as they were in the first golden age. Perhaps because of this, creators and artists allowed themselves to take more risks in their productions, risks they might have never thought of doing before. The youth of the nation was becoming disenchanted with their lives. When they were kids, Japan was a prosperous country, and now they were entering the workforce, and they saw their paychecks were smaller than their parents', their food cost more at the market, and rent was much higher. They were upset and questioning everything, and it showed in this decade, and it showed in anime. And their soapbox to voice their fears and concerns was the return of late-night animes and adult-themed movies. Stories like the existential serial Experiment Lane, the psychological-themed Perfect Blue, and the hyper-violent Kite helped this generation voice their fears and concerns they had for the world they now lived in. But there was one anime that set this era on fire and gave the youth of the nation a focal point to express their fears of their future. Neon Genesis Evangelion. Releasing in 1995 by Hideaki Anno, this mech anime broke every mold there was. It questioned if there was a purpose to one's life and if there was any consequences to one's actions. This show looked at love, religion, and existence in ways no other anime had before. But one of the most interesting legacies Neon Genesis Evangelion left the world was its ability it had to look upon itself and cast a not-so-pretty light on the otaku fandom. In the beginning, Anno wanted his creation to be the ultimate fan show, but by the end, it became a mirror directed to the fans. It left the message, don't just watch life go by, live your life to the fullest you can. And ultimately, this might have been the message the generation of the lost decade needed. But this ability to experiment might have gone a bit too far. With the larger levels of sex and violence in anime of the 90s, the censors had to rein things in. One of the best examples of Japan's censorship has to be the sudden cancellation of the sci-fi series Cowboy Bebop. In the 90s, events like the Tokyo subway bombing and the shocking murder of Jun Hana set society on edge. In response of the ever-increasing reports of violence, many people looked at media for the cause, just as we do today. Television broadcast companies responded, and a long list of censorship and cancellations began to happen. Originally, Cowboy Bebop was going to have a 26-episode run, but was canceled only after episode 18. But not all 18 episodes even saw the small screen. Episode 1, 5, 6, 16, and 17 were also banned from broadcast due to concerns over violence. A special episode was aired called Miss Mash Blues, which was to bookend the series but still leave it open. But less than 1 year later, the entire 26 episodes were shown on the satellite network WOW. Away from the violence in society, animes of this era saw many innovations thanks to the willingness to experiment. And one of the largest experiments was the retelling of a few established genres. In 1995, the next chapter in cyberpunk hit the big screen, Ghost in the Shell. Again, we see anime that is asking questions about existence and the meaning of being human. But the biggest retelling of this era all started with a blonde-haired schoolgirl and her black cat. Releasing in print in Nakiyoshi magazine on December 28th of 1991 and hitting living room floors on March 7th of 1992 by Toei Animation, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon hit the ground running. What Nako Takushi created was a female protagonist that the girls and women of the lost decade needed. The legacy of Sailor Moon, and of Usagi, and of Nako is so culturally important that we're still feeling it today. Sailor Moon helped the magical girl genre grow up. This was the first time we saw Super Sentai, a whole team, be introduced into the magical girl genre. This was also the first time we saw real risk and consequence come to the Sailor Soldiers. Usagi, Sailor Moon herself, became an icon of the girl power movement of the 90s. She was seen as a balanced mix of a teenage girl who loved fashion and jewelry, but could stand her own ground against the monster of the week. And for what Nako Takushi did, she created a series that gave audiences more than what they expected. In a decade where everyone was questioning everything, she wasn't afraid to question with them. Sexuality, racism, family issues, nothing was off the table with her. Economists believe that Japan never left the lost decade, that the nation's financial woes are still with them today in what they coined the lost 20 years. It's clear that in the 90s, art mimicked life. The animes of this decade showed and helped express the fears of the nation. But the longest lasting legacy that came out of the lost decade will always be those animes that we still watch to this day. A new millennium, a new decade, and a new era for anime has now begun. Anime has entered its second golden age. Starting from 2000 to today, anime has seen some of the largest changes since the birth of anime itself. Right now, we're living in the second golden age, an age fueled by technology. With the countless array of online streaming services, anime is no longer out of reach for anyone. Anime is no longer the domain of the otaku who spends nearly a whole paycheck for one season of a show. In the 2000s and the 10s, anime is everywhere for everyone. And because of this ease of access, demand for new shows skyrocketed. This opened the door for the largest growth in anime studios, far larger than the one we saw during the rebuild era after World War II. This demand for more anime led to over 400 anime studios being opened in this era. Because of more writers and more animators, we got new genres and the retelling of a few classic series. This demand also gave us the highest grossing anime of all time in 2016, Your Name, which made over $306 million worldwide. But the biggest advance of this era comes from the first use of CGI. Right at the beginning of the millennium, Alice premiered on the big screen on February 5th, 2000. This sci-fi adventure fantasy set a clear message to the rest of the studios, that a new age is here. And from that moment, we have seen the use of 2D and 3D CGI implemented in all types of anime. This is also the era where we see the first schoolgirls wearing or using instruments of war in a retelling of history where neither side were the aggressors. During the second golden age, we also got a new breed of anime that completely turned their genres on their head. On January 7th, 2011, Madoka Magica turned the magical girl genre, a mostly lighthearted affair, into a dark retrospective on life, death, and the meaning of belief. But on the other hand, Zombieland Saga, which hit the small screens on October 4th, 2018, reworked the group idol anime in a comical and heartwarming way. Yes, pun intended. There were also amazing additions to several genres in the past 20 years. Ergo Proxy, first broadcast on February 25th, 2006, gave cyberpunk a new dimension by adding a mix of mystery that even Edgar Allan Poe would be proud of. Azumanga Daioh had 2 short projects before it hit the TV guide on April 8th, 2002. This addition to the school slice-of-life genre reset what a show about girls going to school and living their lives should be. And Food Wars, which started on April 3rd, 2015, made competitive cooking fun. But more than anything, this era might be best known for the return of many legacy animes. Almost 10 years after the first movie, Ghost in the Shell 2 became the first in a long line of stories continuing the saga of the Major. Although never leaving the large or small screen, this era brought the most storylines to the long-running Mobile Suit Gundam series. Even our favorite android, Astro Boy, saw a brand new return to defend humanity on the behalf of the Ministry of Science. Also given a whole new start, Sailor Moon Crystal gave the Sailor Guardians a fresh telling of their classic adventures. As we take our first steps into the new decade, time will tell if we stay in anime's golden age, or if we go into an age of reform, thanks to the Article 9 and the optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child movements, or the tax fraud scandals, or the attacks on artists and studios, or even the pandemic. But that's for another episode. All I can say is since Japan has entered a new imperial age with a new emperor on the throne, it's an exciting time to be an anime fan. Next time on Anime in the Real World. With over 110 years of anime, there has been so many types on the large and small screen. So many types. Didn't end there. I'm not trying to end. But the innovations didn't end there. This is the era we got the first full feature length. But this is the era we got the first full feature length. Yeah. At this time, and it's no surprise. Don't say it like that. It's a change that's still with us today. It's features that the beginning of the 1970s started with the same old rivalry. The same old rivalry led Mushe production. The financial failure of those 3 movies led Mushe. March 3 movies led. Like America's Black Monday on the 19th of October.